Heartland with John Kasich begins right now. John, nice to see you. What have you got tonight?
Hey, Rick, you're going to see it here first. It's a new tape of Democratic presidential candidate General Wesley Clark praising the Bush administration again, plus my exclusive interview with a man running the war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. That's all straight ahead on Heartland.
I'm Molly Henneberg in Baghdad, Iraq. This is a Fox News alert. A new 17-minute audio tape said to be from Osama bin Laden plays today on the Arab network Al Jazeera. It calls for more attacks against the U.S. and U.S. interests abroad and praises Iraqis who have been targeting the coalition here, describing them as freedom fighters. Al Jazeera says the tape was given to them by a trusted source. The CIA is analyzing the tape now to determine if it is Osama bin Laden's voice. That usually takes a day or two. On the tape, the speaker threatens America with new suicide attacks, saying, quote, "I tell the American people we will continue fighting you and we will continue martyrdom operations inside and outside the United States until you stop your injustice and you end your foolishness. Jihad, that is holy war, must continue until an Islamic government is established." It's not clear if he's talking about an Islamic government in the U.S. or Iraq, possibly both. To Iraqis and Arabs, he calls on them to help defeat the coalition, saying, "You young people of Islam everywhere, especially from neighboring states and Yemen, you have to wage jihad and show your muscle. Follow the right path and don't follow people who follow their whims, who want to divert you from such a mission." The speaker names 6 countries besides the U.S. that could be targeted by suicide bombers: Britain, Spain, Australia, Poland, Japan, and Italy. The man on the tape says they're cooperating with the U.S. in, quote, an unjust war. I'm Molly Henneberg in Baghdad, Iraq. This has been a Fox News alert.
All right, thanks, Molly, and good evening. I'm John Kasich, and live from Columbus, Ohio, this is Heartland. Tonight, it's the tale of the tapes. Take a look at this new exclusive video provided to Fox News by Time magazine of Democratic presidential candidate General Wesley Clark in January 2002, where he once again praises the president.
I tremendously admire, and I think we all should, the great work done by our Commander-in-Chief, our President George Bush, and the men and women of the United States Armed Forces.
Well, we called the Clark campaign, which had, of course, no comment, except that they stand by advisor Mark Fabiani, who in the Time magazine article said that the former general was simply crediting Bush for the Afghanistan campaign, for which 90% of Americans would have agreed. He also said it was the president's Iraq policy, which had not fully flowered by the time of the Harding speech, that was the turning point for Clark and launched his political plans. Well, we're joined by Time magazine correspondent Michael Weiskopf, who was given the tape by Harding University in Arkansas. Michael, always good to see you. Thanks for being with us tonight.
A privilege, John.
You know, Michael, I mean, first of all, it makes me wonder, is the guy ready for prime time? I mean, in 2001, he praised everyone in the Bush administration but the janitor, and then he comes back in 2002 and says, you know, Bush is the greatest commander-in-chief. This has got to be hurting him.
This is something that his rivals are going to jump all over simply because he's begged off of his earlier comments as those of early in the Bush administration, where every American was giving a chance to the new administration. I think he said early in 2001 he had hopes that the Bush administration would do well. Here we're talking about 8 months later. Now, timing is pretty critical because even then some administration officials began talking about a war against Iraq, which of course was the turning point for him. And about a week later was the president's speech on the axis of evil.
Michael, the thing of, first of all, I want to compliment you on this. You just break one story after another. You're an outstanding reporter. What I'm trying to figure out is who's behind this this Clark campaign. In other words, I think the guy was toying with the idea, and then all of a sudden he jumps in, and a couple weeks later he's got a lot of money. Somebody has been pulling the strings. Who the heck are the people behind this campaign?
I don't think there's anything conspiratorial here, John.
I don't mean it like that, Michael. I don't mean conspiratorial, but obviously there are people who lined this thing up, and a lot of them are former Bush people. Tell us what the core is. I don't mean Bush people, Clinton people. Tell us the core.
He's attracted a lot of Clinton people, both money people and strategists, and Gore people as well. There are some traditional Democrats in here who have been in many, many campaigns. He also had a pretty large grassroots organization pushing him to get in. He's mastered, as Dean has, the power of the internet. There was a strong draft Clark movement. Interestingly, some of them are not very happy by being replaced by some of the old political pros. At this point, there is no real core to the Clark campaign. He's a fledgling politically. He's sorting these things out.
You know, Michael, after the series of Democratic debates, it seems as though, you know, it's sort of like a NASCAR race that isn't going anywhere. No one's changed position. It looks like Howard Dean is still way out in front. No one has delivered, you know, even a stunning punch to him. What is your assessment of that Democratic field at this point?
Well, Clark has made some inroads, and he will attract moderate Democrats, those who, for instance, lined up behind the Clintons, and those who are looking for a strong figure, stronger and potentially more viable than his 8 rivals, none of whom have really sort of risen to the top other than Dean.
You know, your sense on the Bush poll numbers having gone up here, 6 points, and with the UN approval of this resolution, tell us how you think the president's sitting right now. He's in a pretty stable position, but these polls are just snapshots. They change almost every day. It depends on really what the president had for breakfast this morning. Now he's traveling overseas. Traditionally, we swing behind our support of a president when he's overseas. All right, Michael, thanks for being with us. Look, they are going to pound Clark on this, and secondly, I'm still waiting for the person that stands up on the podium next to Bush and can really get the respect of the people. We're going to have to wait and see how it develops. Thank you. Coming up, Heartland's exclusive interview with the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. We'll be back with that here.
I don't know. I suspect he's still in the country. I suspect he's still in the northern part, but that's like saying someone's in the northern part of California.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Iavana. President Bush says the U.S. has no plans to invade North Korea, but the president says he won't sign a non-aggression treaty with that country, which is something North Korea wanted. North Korea has admitted to developing nuclear weapons. President Bush in Thailand for a meeting with the leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. It is the 3rd stop of his Asian-Australian tour. He's expected to talk about the war on terrorism and international efforts in rebuilding Iraq. Mr. Bush has already made stops in Japan and the Philippines. A plan is in the works to reduce the number of U.S. soldiers in Iraq. The Washington Post reports that our forces there could go from 130,000 now down to 100,000 by next summer and to 50,000 by the middle of 2005. Military commanders have presented the plan to Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. U.S. forces imposing a curfew in the Sunni town of Qaldiyah as coalition forces spent the day searching houses looking for illegal weapons. U.S. troops in the holy city of Karbala sealed off roads around the office and house of a Shiite cleric. Commanders believe he is to blame for a shootout that left 3 American soldiers dead. A B-1 bomber taking the low road, literally. Its top speed, 45 miles per hour. The decommissioned warplane's fuselage is being hauled by truck to the Strategic Air and Space Museum in Nebraska. The Florida Marlins grabbed Game 1 of the World Series, beating the New York Yankees 3-2. The Marlins' Juan Pierre hit a game-winning 2-run single in the 5th innings. The win broke the Yankees' World Series record of 10 consecutive wins at home. The Yankees' Nick Johnson popped up to end the game with the tying run on second base. I'll have another update at the bottom of the hour. Heartland continues next.
The captioning for this program is brought to you by... Tried everything for dry, rough, scaly feet? Now try podiatrist recommended Carousel, the unique exfoliating moisturizer for softer, smoother feet. Carousel, it's everything your feet need.
In our fast-paced world, it's important to take a moment to relax. Immerse yourself in one of the world's most inspiring musical experiences. Introducing the most relaxing classical album in the world ever. A listening experience perfectly suited to your world. Surround yourself with the tranquility and classical grandeur of Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. once-in-a-lifetime treasury is performed by today's greatest classical artists. The most relaxing classical album in the world ever. Over 2.5 hours of the world's best-loved classical themes. To order, call now. This outstanding collection has been digitally mastered to further enhance this definitive listening experience. The most relaxing classical album in the world ever. On 2 CDs or 2 cassettes. Call now to order yours.
To order the most relaxing classical album in the world ever, use your credit card and call the number on your screen, or send check or money order to the address shown. Rush delivery available. Call now.
Welcome back. As you can see in our new poll, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld has the support of a majority of Americans. In an exclusive interview at the Pentagon this week, I asked Secretary Rumsfeld what was going right, what his critics claim is going wrong, and what's the real truth in the war with Iraq.
Well, like in most things, it's not black or white. It's somewhere in between. The truth is that people are getting killed and wounded in that country, and our folks are doing a wonderful job, the men and women in uniform. They are chasing down terrorists and criminals and remnants of the Ba'athist regime of Saddam Hussein. They're doing a good job at it. They're capturing and killing a good number of people consistently. And in the process, coalition forces are being attacked. I should also add, however, that there have been some 76 Iraqis who serve in security forces supporting the coalition who have been killed. So it is not as though just the coalition forces. It is also Iraqis that are putting their lives on the line, and they in fact are fighting for the freedom of their country, and God bless them for helping to do that. While that's going on, there are some really wonderful, spectacular things that are taking place. There are literally thousands of projects that have been done to enable schools to open and hospitals and clinics to open, to repair the badly deteriorating water system, to fix the electrical grid. We've gone from 0 Iraqis helping with their security up to something like 65,000 at the present time. So I feel that a great deal of good is being done. On the other hand, we've got a very serious, low-intensity war going on, conflict going on.
All right, Saddam, I guess the first question is, why is it so tough to catch him? And secondly, if we catch him, or when we catch him, which I think we will, is it symbolic, or is it going to really mean something in terms of real progress in settling the country down?
Well, his regime is gone, and the remnants are trying to kill people around the country, and they're getting some help from some neighbors. Is it important to capture or kill Saddam Hussein? Yes. There are still enough people who, after 3 decades, are intimidated by the man. The man killed tens and tens and tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. He used chemicals on his own people. This is a very bad person, and the threat that he could conceivably still be alive, that he could conceivably come back, is something that enough people in Iraq worry about that they're reluctant to give full support to the coalition. Now, when will we find him? I don't know. Where is he? I don't know. I suspect he's still in the country. I suspect he's still in the northern part, but that's like saying someone's in the northern part of California. That doesn't make it any easier to find him. And we don't have good intelligence that is actionable enough that we can nail it.
President Putin has said that Iraq could be our Afghanistan, or if not, a vacuum for radicals from all over the world to pour in. A lot of mothers and fathers with their sons and daughters over there. How do you respond to Putin's observation?
Well, I make two observations. One is the Russians said that about Afghanistan also for us. They said that everything was being done wrong, it was going to turn into a disaster, and they ought to know. They had 300,000 people in Afghanistan and lost. They were wrong as to what is happening in Afghanistan. Is that perfect situation? No. Is it a dangerous situation to some extent? Yes. Are the Taliban still trying to get in there and get back? Absolutely. And that's why we have military forces and Afghan forces out rooting them out. With respect to Iraq, I guess time will tell whether Mr. Putin, President Putin, is right or wrong. I think he's wrong. The Soviets, when they did things, wanted to be occupiers of countries. The American people don't want to occupy other countries. We want to liberate people, and we've liberated 23 million people in Afghanistan instead of going in as the Soviets did to occupy them. And we've liberated 23 million people in Iraq, plus or minus. And our goal is to pass over sovereignty, pass over the responsibility for security, and leave.
Blunt words from the Secretary. We're now joined by Larry Elder, author of Shakedown and a KABC radio talk show host, and Tom Friedman. He's a former senior advisor to President Clinton. Larry, let me just start off by asking you, the Congress overwhelmingly passed the $87 billion in that vicinity bill through the House and the Senate aid to Iraq. There was a lot of carping about it. The administration said they were going to go around the major media. What's the impact of that kind of a victory?
Well, I think it's a great victory, John. By the way, the book is called Showdown, not Shakedown. But anyway, it's a great victory for him.
Maybe you should have called it Shakedown, Larry, but go ahead.
Well, there's already a book called Shakedown about Jesse Jackson. Mine's a broader topic.
All right.
And also, John, there's this victory that he's had in the United Nations. He got a unanimous resolution from the Security Council that may open the door for more economic assistance and more military troops. So it's been a great week for the President and a great week for Donald Rumsfeld.
All right, Tom, let's talk about that UN vote. As you know, Rumsfeld led the way in speaking bluntly to our allies. A lot of people said big mistake. But yet this week you had a unanimous vote begun by China, followed up by Russia, and everybody fell in line to say, okay, we're going to make this an international effort. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think it's good news, but it's also frustrating news. It doesn't mean more money necessarily, and it doesn't mean more troops, and those are the two crucial things that all Americans want to see from the rest of the world.
Well, Tom, that doesn't mean more troops from Turkey, more troops from Japan, and perhaps some other troops? Because, you know, we are going to actually get a Muslim country in there.
Well, I think that most we're expecting from Turkey, which is a complicated country, as you know, to have troops coming in from as a neighbor and a rival to the Kurds. But in any kind of numbers like what we need, we haven't seen it forthcoming. As you know, even the first President Bush was able to get over 150,000 international troops in. Oh. And frankly, that blunt talk that you talked about may have alienated a lot of the rest of the world.
All right, Larry and Tom, you stay with us. We're going to see what Secretary Rumsfeld thinks about security here in America. Coming up later, will the consecration of an openly gay bishop cause an irreparable split between opposing groups in the Episcopal Church? Plus, did the prosecutors in the Lacey Peterson murder trial purposely misplace important information that might prove Scott's innocence? We'll be back to talk about that and more in just a few minutes.
Sunday, they terrorized the Beltway in a series of deadly sniper shootings. Now, one accused killer goes to trial for capital murder. Get the latest developments in the Beltway sniper case on Fox Magazine.
If your dog seems to be slowing down, it may not be his age. It may actually be the painful effects of arthritis. And because the pain is there every day, now Deramax is there every day. Deramax provides all-day, everyday pain control. That's because Deramax is a breakthrough pain medication that targets the sources of everyday arthritis pain, and it's safe for everyday use. To learn if Deramax could help your dog, call 1-866-DERAMAX today for a free pain evaluation package. As with all drugs in this class, gastrointestinal and renal side effects may occur. These are normally mild but may be serious. Tell your veterinarian if your dog has any existing medical conditions. Pets on all medications should be regularly monitored. For all-day, everyday control of arthritis pain, call 1-866-DERAMAX now for a free pain evaluation package. Or see your veterinarian. DERAMAX every day, because the pain is every day.
And the feel-good dance fest, Pom Pom. You watched him rewrite the rule book in Sharpie and hung 10 with his thrilling island antics in Hawaii T.O. Now appearing in his most lucrative adventure yet, Contract Year. Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader this weekend.
You dream of a better life? Well, that's the first step to making it happen. The next is to call Ameripause. They've helped me make a great living from the prepaid wireless revolution. By owning Ameripause point-of-sale terminals, I link the largest providers of wireless services with retail locations. This is the fastest growing segment of the telecom industry. It's projected to grow 250% in the next 4 years. My Ameripause terminals sell prepaid cellular service, prepaid long-distance phone cards, prepaid internet access cards, and many other items. And the profits can be enormous. I receive a monthly check for each terminal I own, and the terminals do all the work. They make money whether I'm awake or asleep, and it only takes a few hours a week to run my business. Ameripause secures the best locations with huge consumer traffic. But you better call now because the best locations are going fast. Ameripause is your next step to a better life.
Welcome back, and more of my exclusive interview with Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. I asked him about the war on terror and the Bush administration's policy of tracking down and striking terrorists.
If you think about it, a terrorist can attack any place at any time using any technique. And we know it's not possible to defend every place at every moment of the day or night against every conceivable a type of attack or capability. What that says to you is that America, we're free people. And what we do is we get up and say what we want and go where we want and do what we want and send our kids off to school, and with high confidence they're going to be able to come home. The idea that we could just hunker down and defend against everything, all these threats in the world, these terrorists, was belied by September 11th. On September 11th, we had not done anything. We were attacked, and we've been attacked in many places around the world, as have other countries. And that says to me that the idea that Americans could even think that we could hunker down and be safe and still be free people, that doesn't sell in this new 21st century environment we're in. It would be nice if it did, but it doesn't. And that means that we have to go after the terrorists where they are.
You know, Washington loves, as you know and I know, a great cat fight. Started as a tempest at a teapot, and now it's spread to where even papers throughout the Heartland are saying, is Rumsfeld in a fight with the White House over his level of control?
Not at all.
Do you have as much authority today as you had when you planned this war?
Nothing's changed. Just a fact. The NSC's got a responsibility to coordinate interagency, and the memo that was sent out was for that purpose, and nothing else has changed.
Two final personal questions. First of all, Rumsfeld's up. He's the matinee idol. He's talked about on Saturday Night Live. Then Rumsfeld's down. Is the war going to go right? Then he's back up. Then he's down. Tell us about the roller coaster for anybody, particularly a 71 71 going on 50-year-old man.
Oh, Johnny, you know, I think of it as another day in the life of a public servant. That's the way it is in life. And
does it get you down when they're pounding on you?
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't. You'd much prefer the up days than the down days. On the other hand, people in these spots like I am, and I'm just one of many. I mean, defense ministers all over the world have ups and downs as well as other cabinet officers. But those of us here tend to know what's going on. And so what happens to be being in the press in a given day tends not to affect us as much as what's really going on. And it always tends to be counter-cyclical almost. When it looks down out there in the real world, I may be up, and vice versa, depending on what's happening.
What about the Rumsfeld legacy? Now, I know you don't probably want to answer that. You're the only guy that
to have a legacy.
Feld for his time. He was great to give us that time. And we turn once again to Larry Elder and to Tom Friedman. Larry and Tom, you know, there were whispers in Washington that maybe Rummy was in a little bit of trouble. I still think he's a rock star across the middle of America. I'd like both of your perspectives on the strength of Donald Rumsfeld in this administration. Larry, let's start with you.
Well, he seems firmly in charge to me, and he's absolutely right about there being good days and bad days as far as the media coverage is concerned. John, I think there's been a gap between how well things are going versus how much of our mainstream news media is reporting. The power's back now. A Gallup poll taken not long ago said that the majority of the Iraqi people were thrilled that Saddam Hussein was gone, that they feel in the next 5 years their lives are going to be better. But Rummy's been around the block. He can handle it.
Tom, what about you? What's your take? Is he a guy the Democrats going to pick on in this next election, or is he a guy the administration is going to send out there in sort of his official role?
Well, I don't think this is an issue that is either about Democrats or Republicans, and it should stay out of politics. It's about how to keep the country safe. The part where I think there is a gap is not so much the media coverage, because that's not particularly relevant, but whether or not the administration prematurely said mission accomplished. You remember that giant banner, John,
right,
they put up. And that, you know, that has made it difficult. We had 4 soldiers, we lost their lives in the last 24 hours.
You're right.
That's a serious problem.
Bottom line is, can they explain it, and can the people understand it and support it? Right now, I think they're doing fine. Thanks for being with us. Will charges of evidence tampering in the Lacey Peterson murder trial be a plus for Scott's defense? We'll explore that coming up here on the Fox News Channel.
The dental experts at Oral-B are on a mission to protect your teeth and gums. Their ultimate weapon? The new Oral-B Professional Care 7000, the world's most advanced power toothbrush. The new Professional Care 7000 has a compact round head like dentists and hygienists use to surround each tooth for better cleaning. And its unique 3D action pulsates to loosen plaque and oscillates to sweep it away, preventing and even reversing gum disease. Mission accomplished. Call now and get a $10 off certificate on this breakthrough in dental hygiene. In fact, an independent study concluded Professional Care's oscillating technology cleans better than manual brushing, and it removes more plaque than Sonicare Elite, even along the gum line. No wonder more dentists worldwide use Oral-B. So call 1-877-34-BRUSH now for $10 off. That's your mission. The new Oral-B Professional Care 7000. Brush like a dentist.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The only show that takes you inside the world of extreme sports each and every weekday.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For breaking news, event highlights, and inside features you won't find anywhere else. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Weekdays on Fox Sports Net.
On this ship, something terrible is about to happen.
Those police boats?
That's the Securities and Exchange Commission.
They have boats?
The SEC is making him out to be some kind of mastermind. The man can barely work our shredder.
Meet a family that's lost everything, and the one son sane enough to pull him through.
We're back on track, and we're focused, and faster. You can't do that in the snack room, pal.
Mom told me to stay away from microwaves.
Arrested Development premieres next month on Fox. He
He unleashed a Nazi war machine, crushing everything in its path. Now, Britain stood alone, outnumbered and outgunned. Relive the days when battles raged in the skies and a nation stood tall in its finest hour. The Battle of Britain on the next War Stories with Oliver North.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Iavana. New audio tapes allegedly containing the voice of Osama bin Laden airing Saturday on Arab television. The voice heard warned, "I tell the American people we will continue fighting you and we will continue martyrdom operations inside and outside the United States until you stop your injustice and you end your foolishness." The White House says this tape's a sign that the war on terror rages on and, quote, why we are taking the fight to the killers. President Bush, who's in Thailand, is expected to name that country a major non-NATO ally. That means the U.S. will give Thailand more top-of-the-line military equipment. Mother Teresa is being beatified in front of 150,000 people at the Vatican. The Pope declaring her blessed and putting her one step closer to sainthood. Mother Teresa died in 1997 at the age of 87. A convicted killer and a murder suspect break out of prison in Louisiana. The two men slid under a fence and went over the top of a gate. One man was convicted of manslaughter and the other was set to be tried for murder in connection with the death of his 12-year-old stepdaughter. Illusionist David Blaine is not at the end of his rope, but it is his last day inside a clear box 40 feet above London's Thames River. Blaine has spent 44 days in the 7-foot by 3-foot box with only water and no food. Another update in 1 hour. Heartland with John Kasich continues right here on Fox News Channel.
Welcome back to Heartland. I'm John Kasich. Scott Peterson's defense attorneys now allege that a sheriff's dog failed to detect any scent of Lacey in his fishing boat and that investigators purposely did not give that information to a judge because it undercut their theory of Scott's guilt. Well, does it? Well, we're joined by Jeanine Pirro, district attorney and author of To Punish and Protect, One DA's Fight Against a System That Coddles Criminals. Jeanine, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John.
All right, we got your book up there. First of all, your book is filled with examples of where, you know, basically the victim has been forgotten, that the person who's been charged with a crime seems to have most things going for them. Why don't you elaborate how you'd fix that?
You know, John, the truth is that even the name of the system gives the criminal top billing. It's the criminal justice system when it should be the victim justice system. And in my book, I chronicle cases where victims are forgotten. We use them as witnesses in criminal trials, and then we kind of throw them to the wayside. And it's really about making sure that we as a society focus on victims and heal them. And I talk about cases where the criminal is celebritized, we make excuses for them. We almost engage in a national therapy session where we wonder where we went wrong. Was he abused as a child? We have to stop worrying about the criminal and start healing the victim and making sure that things like statute of limitations and bail and various other issues are changed so that we can further protect victims.
You know, Jeanine, your book, as I was reading some of the chapters, I have to tell you a couple of the stories were difficult to work through because they were graphic, but what they did was, I think, illustrate your point, which is when you understand what these victims go through, it just drives you crazy, and you demand justice. Let me ask you about the issue of not being able to put explicitly violent information before a jury. Where does that come from? Because it might bias somebody.
Well, you know, and as you say, I talk about it in the book. What we do is, and I know from having been a judge, is that you keep out photographs that are so horrific and because they may be prejudicial to the defendant. Well, excuse me, it was the defendant who was charged with putting the victim in that position of a pool of blood. It is the defendant that stabbed the victim and left the victim with the knife in, and juries don't see this. You know, trials today are not about the truth. Trials protect the truth and what happens in terms of protecting the defendant. And then we tell the victims, you know what, your whole life now is an open book. It's open season on everything you've ever done. It's backwards. It's almost as though in some cases you expect the juries to stand up and say, we, the jury, find the victim guilty. Well, it's not about trashing victims anymore. It's about identifying criminal behavior.
Gotcha. Now, Janine, let's cover a couple things very quickly. One is in the Lacey Peterson case, they're now saying that the dog, this cadaver dog, got to the boat and didn't pick up Lacey's scent. The defense is using that to try to undercut the prosecution's case. Your views on the impact of that?
Well, that's ridiculous. There was no misrepresentation in the warrants, and what a search warrant does is it's an order signed by a judge, and what police and law enforcement have to do is they have to outline facts that establish probable cause to give the police the warrant to get further evidence. There is nothing in that search warrant that is a misrepresentation in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that the prosecution didn't put in, by the way, the dog didn't make a hit or an alert on the boat doesn't mean anything. We don't know how the body was wrapped. I mean, we talked about some kind of umbrella wrapping that was used to cover the victim's body. We don't know what the facts are. And you know what? Right now, this is something that is so minuscule, but like everything else in the Lacey Peterson case, blow it up.
Okay, now, Janine, look, you are very sharp, very smart, very articulate, and it appears very tough. And you look at this case in Colorado on Kobe Bryant, it seems to me as though the prosecutor out there is... appears to me he's been over his head. Is it, how does somebody who's paid by the public, like a prosecutor, go up against the dream team where money is no object? Can a prosecutor be effective in this kind of a case?
Well, you know, what's interesting, John, is that it's the reverse question that we used to ask before. You know, can defendants get represented by attorneys who are good enough for them? Here's the bottom line. It really is about the facts. What are the facts in the case? And at this preliminary hearing, make no mistake about it, John, there was no information in this hearing that the defense did not already have. This was a hearing that the defense used brilliantly to spin public opinion. And when you talk about the rape shield law, the genesis of that law is founded in the concept that a woman's sexual history is not relevant to the charge of rape, because if that were the case, then the only women who could claim rape would be virgins. And last I checked, there were no chastity belts that were required. But what you've got here is the public spinning in both directions.
Right.
And when we get to the trial, and I believe that the judge will hold us over for a trial, then we'll hear all the facts. And you know what? The jury will decide.
All right. Janine, listen, will you come back again sometime? You're very articulate. We'd love to have you back. Thank you. Good luck with your book. Thanks. There's about to be a decisive showdown in the Episcopal Church over an openly gay bishop. We're going to talk to one bishop who believes that it's a good thing. That's straight ahead on Heartland.
If you are one of the millions of Americans who has trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, there are sleep solutions. Call this number now to receive your Sleep Solutions Information Kit. This information can help you better understand your specific sleep issues. There's also a sleep diary to help you keep track of your sleep habits and describe them to your doctor. We've also included a valuable offer. One phone call can start you on a path to help you regain a regular sleep cycle and help restore the rhythm of your life. It's this rhythm that helps keep us in balance by sleeping at night and waking each morning, refreshed and ready to greet the day. Call the toll-free number now to help you get started. You can also visit us online at www.shuteye.com. The Sleep Solutions Information Kit can help you take the first step toward rediscovering and restoring the rhythm of your life. Call for your Sleep Solutions Information Kit now.
TV personality Stan Hooper was tired of the big city rat race.
I want to be a simple man.
Oh, honey, you are simple.
So he's moving to a small town to get away from it all.
We're going to make Waterford Falls our new home.
Oh, that's marvelous. Fallen on hard times, have you?
But he's about to find...
Look, honey, it's your head made out of cheese.
Holy Lord.
That average America...
Oh, I
forgot the best part. The house comes with a butler.
We don't need a butler.
So, how do you folks like your underwear folded?
Ain't what it used to be.
I'm going to get you tea right now.
I don't want tea.
No, you're getting it.
Norm Macdonald stars
Tea is served.
I don't want tea.
And you should have said something.
in a minute with Stan Hooper, a new comedy, Fox Bob.
Mondays on the National Geographic Channel. Daring American families like yours are taking off on the adventure of a lifetime. Worlds Apart. Mondays at 8, 9 Pacific. Only on the National Geographic Channel.
Welcome back. It looks like a split in a major American church appears inevitable. Episcopalians who oppose plans to consecrate the first openly gay bishops say they'll form their own independent network of conservative churches as Anglican leaders from around the world try to find ways to ease tensions. We're joined by Bishop Stephen Charleston, President and Dean of the Episcopal Divinity School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Bishop, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Listen, just at the end of last week, you had the Archbishop of Canterbury plus the primates from around the world say that while they may be sympathetic to gays, they find homosexuality to be inconsistent with Scriptures and incompatible with Scriptures. So why move forward on ordaining an openly gay priest?
Well, John, what happened in London was actually a meeting of the primates, that's the heads of the different churches that are part of the Anglican Communion. They said several things. One, they said they're going to stay together and keep working on this issue. The next thing they said was it's still a topic that has to be discussed and debated within the life of the church. Now, moving forward with what's happening in the United States with Gene Robinson, who is the person we're talking about, with his consecration, is something that our church is saying that it's a lawful thing for us to do. But it's fraught with all kinds of issues that have to be worked out within the life of the large Anglican Communion.
Look, I don't mean to interrupt you here or to not be respectful, because you, I understand, are a great man of God. But it's pretty clear what they said over in England. I was on the phone today with Bishop Beckwith, who you might know from Springfield, Illinois. He says, not be confused. Basically, they said there is sympathy towards gays. No one's condemning them. But they stand by earlier rulings in the Episcopal Church that homosexuality is not consistent with the Scripture. And if, in fact, you go forward and ordain, you're going to split this church right down the middle.
Well, the question about what actually was said in 1998 in terms of whether homosexuality is acceptable is in terms of the whole issue of what the Bible has to say about homosexuality. And that's the problem, John. We have been fighting over the interpretation in the Bible about homosexuality for 30 years. And we're still going to be fighting about it. Will the church in some ways divide over this issue? I think the answer to that has already been given to us. The church is already divided. Now we're simply putting it out on the table in front of the whole world and saying, look, we're coming clean and being honest. The fact of the matter is there's been gay leadership in the life of the Christian faith for 2,000 years. What are we really going to do about that? And people are going to split in different directions when you place that in front of them honestly, and that's what's happening here. We're just being honest.
You know, I think where we're having failure to communicate here is I don't think there's been any confusion around this issue in the Lambeth decision in 1998, and in fact, in terms of what happened at the end of last week. It was specifically said and signed by all bishops, including Griswold, who is the primate here in North America, that this is not in dispute, that in fact homosexual activity is not considered compatible or compatible with Scriptures. There may be some that debate that, but the overwhelming members, primates of the church have said that, correct?
No, I'm sorry. We are maybe having some difficulty in the interpretation of what's been said within the communion itself. No, the idea that the Episcopal Church in the United States says that homosexuality is not compatible with the Bible is wrong. The Episcopal Church in the United States has maintained the position that homosexuality is not a sin, it's not something evil. We believe that people don't choose to be homosexual, and there's a very important point. There are Christians who think that homosexuality is a choice. There are many others of us who say, no, it's not a choice. People don't choose to be gay. So it's not a sinful act in the eyes of the Episcopal Church.
All right. I've got you, Bishop, but let me just read to you directly. In their statement, the primates reaffirmed the landmark 98 Lambeth Conference resolution on human sexuality, which said that homosexual practice is incompatible with Scripture. And they also went on to say that if, in fact, you change from the rest of the church, you're going to split the church. So why would we, at a time when there's so much confusion and admittedly, discussion that's going to continue, why move forward with this sort of a decision at a time when, frankly, the church needs to speak with one voice to the congregations? No one's condemning gays here. They're just raising the issue about whether a person ought to be made a bishop who is an active homosexual. So why send a mixed message?
Well, let's set aside the debates about, for a moment, what the position on homosexuality is within the Anglican communion or what they said at Lambeth, and focus on your question. Why would we want to go forward? Well, the problem is we have no other direction to go. The other option is to say, which is what society's been saying to gay and lesbian people for centuries, go back in the closet, don't let us know that you're here, we'll pretend that you're not around, and we'll get on with business as usual. We've tried that, John, and it doesn't work. The bottom line is, in this world of ours, in the 21st century here, we're going to have to face the reality of gay life, and the church needs to come clean and be honest about it. And I know it's difficult. I know it'll be painful. But that's what this denomination's trying to do.
I want to thank you. I will say, no one's telling anybody to disappear, go back in the closet, or anything else. It's really a more fundamental issue, and it really is an issue that revolves around Scripture. But, Bishop, thanks for being with us, and hopefully you'll get this all resolved and you'll stay together.
I think we will. Thank you very much for letting us talk about it.
All right, sir. Up next, casinos on Native American lands pull in millions and millions of dollars every day. Who is really benefiting from all that cash? We'll answer that question when Heartland returns.
If you think modern hair transplants don't look natural, think again.
Can you believe it? This used to be me. This picture speaks for itself. Before, after.
If you want to do something about your hair loss, there's never been a better time to call Bosley for this free information package. Inside, you'll discover how Bosley moves hair from the back of your head to fill in the balding areas.
It's not a hairpiece, it's my own naturally growing hair.
Bosley is the world's most experienced hair restoration practice. Utilizing advanced hair transplant techniques, our highly skilled and dedicated staff pride themselves on providing each and every patient with an unsurpassed level of care, so you can be confident of realizing the right results for you. Picture yourself with hair. Call now or visit our website at bosley.com to find out if Bosley is the right choice for you.
One phone call made all the difference in the world.
It's amazing, isn't it? No hair?
Hair? I don't even recognize this guy.
Bosley. The right people, the right experience, the right results.
Attention all smokers. Now you can kick the habit in only 7 days guaranteed with Smoke Away, the natural, doctor-recommended stop smoking system that really works.
I quit smoking in 2 days with Smoke Away. It took me 3 days to quit smoking.
I quit smoking the very first day.
The secret is Smoke Away's unique blend of ingredients that helps to almost completely eliminate your craving for nicotine. Imagine, no more Nic Fits.
It's safe. It's highly effective. I've had tremendous success with my patients using the Smoke Away program.
I was on the patch for 5 months with absolutely no results. I did Smoke Away for 3 days, and I've been smoke-free ever since.
I smoked for 40 years, and I quit in 3 days with Smoke Away. And if I can do it, after trying every other method there is, I know Smoke Away will work for anyone.
Smoke Away is the best product on the market today for quitting smoking.
Call right now and get $50 in free bonus gifts. This is a limited time offer. Call right now.
What about Paris?
Why not the Caribbean?
How can planning your next trip be even better?
Mexico?
Knowing your trip could be free.
Hawaii! Yeah!
Call now to request the City Advantage World MasterCard, and you can earn free award travel plus get 10,000 bonus miles. And you can use your miles to fly on over 25 top airlines. You'll earn 1 mile for every dollar you spend on everyday purchases and on special purchases too. Call to request your card and 10,000 bonus miles. Plus, now your miles never expire as long as you make a purchase with your card at least once every 3 years. Soon, you'll be on the trip you plan. Use your miles to fly on over 25 top airlines, stay at the finest hotels worldwide, and drive with any major car rental company free. Call now to request your City Advantage World MasterCard and 10,000 bonus miles. And your next trip to almost anywhere could be free.
Welcome back. Every day, millions of dollars are won and lost in casinos on Native American lands. The question is, who's really behind these gambling gold mines? My next guest was a writer for the Washington Post when he discovered that there was a billionaire tribe in Connecticut, a tribe that didn't exist. A group of people, with the help of lawyers, were able to reinvent a dead Indian tribe and create the biggest casino in the world. We're joined by Brett Fromson, author of Hitting the Jackpot, the inside story of the richest Indian tribe in history. Brett, we don't have a lot of time. This is a fantastic book, Hitting the Jackpot. How is it possible that the Pequots are on a reservation in Connecticut when the last Pequot who lived on the reservation died in 1973?
John, the basic story is that she died and then her family decided to move on, and the state of Connecticut said, well, if you're going to move on, you have to become a tribe. And so they organized themselves into a tribe eventually, but they had not been tribal at all prior to that.
Brett, how did this Indian tribe decide to build the biggest casino, Indian casino in America? Why didn't they, on their reservation, just go ahead and build some regular businesses? Why a casino?
Well, the casino business is so profitable, and they had a guy, a lawyer, a very brilliant lawyer, came down from Maine, and he explained to them that they had the possibility of getting gambling, and they were situated midway between New York and Boston, and there'd be, essentially more money than God might come down.
What was the qualifications for becoming a member of the Pequot tribe?
All you had to do initially was descend from someone on a federal census in 1900 or 1910 as being a resident on that reservation. There was very soon no blood quantum required.
So you didn't have to be a blood relative. You got to be a member of the tribe. You got a casino that no one else had. What kind of money was made, and what did the top officials of this tribe get paid?
Oh, by 1995, these people were really, on average, profiting to the tune of $500,000, $750,000 a year per Pequot.
Now, how did they end up getting the financing to do any of this development? Did any of that come from the taxpayers?
This really came from some overseas Chinese, although initially the way they financed it was with some tax subsidies, some loopholes, some HUD housing. It was sort of a parfait of private money and public subsidies.
Now, Brett, so what you're saying is it was possible to be a Pequot without being a blood relative. They then had a reservation, which the government sanctioned. They built a casino. Some people were making $500,000 to $1 million a year, and the government helped set this thing up, financed by people overseas. What was the benefit to the Native Americans with this kind of a scheme?
Well, not very much. I mean, this is one of the things that's amazing about the story, is that you have a bunch of people who were not a tribe who then became the richest tribe. At the same time, we have all these real Indian tribes who are basically still scuffling along.
Now, Brett, what are they going to do in Maine? Is this same attorney involved in terms of activity in Maine? What's going on up there?
Yeah, his name is Tom Tureen, and Tom is the architect of the big casino referendum on the November ballot in Maine. Tom was defeated back in 1980 when he tried to bring Indian gaming to Maine with the Penobscot and the Passamaquoddy. He's back now 23 years later trying to bring to Maine what he did in Connecticut.
Brett, one final question, and that is, when we talk about Pequot culture, tell us that excerpt from your book when the Pequots were headed to Malaysia to meet their financiers. How did they put on a genuine Pequot performance?
Well, they were stopping over and they were asked to share their culture at the Polynesian Cultural Center, and they were asked to sing a Pequot song. So these people all looked at each other, the Pequots, and they said, well, what do we all know? And since none of them had ever lived tribally, the only song they knew and the song they sang was, "You Are My Sunshine."
You know, Brett, a terrific book. I hope our people will go out and get it. Hitting the Jackpot. It should cause a real stir in Washington. Thanks for being with us. You'll want to see our next guest, a college professor who believes in porn.
The music of the 80s was innovative and expressive and introduced us to some dynamic new sound. Casey Kasem for America's Top 10 Hits, bringing you some of the best rock and pop songs from each decade. We've compiled 40 top 10 hits from the 80s into a 2-CD set called Electric 80s. Here are some of the great songs you'll get.
Another one bites the dust.
Listening to selections from Electric 80s, an incredible 40-song collection of top 10 hits on 2 CDs. Here's more.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave your plans behind.
I need you tonight. I touch you once, I touch you twice. Relax, don't do it. When you wanna go through it, why don't they do what they say what they mean?
Electric 80s contains the music that defined a decade. I know you're going to enjoy it as much as I do. I'm Casey Kasem for America's Top 10 Hits.
Call this toll-free number or visit musiccollections.com. You'll get 40 top 10 hits on 2 CDs for only $29.99 plus shipping and handling. Have your credit card ready and order now.
The Fox Report. It has to be real. Real life breaking news on the scene without distortion. First, accurate. We're going to be fair and balanced in all that we do. Fast. News is exciting and interesting, so that's how we play it. Fox way.
Shepard Smith, the most trusted network news anchor on cable.
You're going to get it fresh and real. News with a pulse, we call it. The #1 newscast on cable. The Fox Report.
Only on Fox News Channel. We report, you decide.
Welcome back. Are Asian Americans underrepresented in the media? And if so, will showing homemade pornographic films to college students really bring about a positive change? We're joined by UC Davis College professor Daryl Hamamoto, who has produced an all-Asian pornographic movie which he believes will affect change. Professor, why will making a pornographic movie help Asian Americans?
Well, sir, as you noted, Asian Americans are almost completely absent from corporate media, that is network television and film. And by doing this, we're taking the show, so to speak, right to our audience, Asian American people. This idea comes directly from the classroom, from my students who have complained on and on and on about being marginalized or being misrepresented. So as a professor in ethnic studies, I wanted not just to diagnose the problem, but also to correct it. And I thought the most effective way would be to produce such a program.
Okay, but Professor, porn is the least common denominator. I mean, if you really want to build great Asian film stars, why wouldn't you go up the food chain rather than going down to the food chain to the lowest common denominator?
Well, I'd have to disagree with you. The porn business is an $8 to $10 billion business. It makes more money than the mainstream film business, and my idea was
is money the definition of whether something's good or not?
Not necessarily, but the idea is that with the revenues that I generate with this very cost-effective means of filmmaking, that I would be able to pour those revenues into my own all-Asian American network called Yen TV, Yellow Entertainment Network, so that we don't have to rely on Fox, CBS, NBC for these sort of tidbits, these handouts, begging them for roles on your networks.
You know, the thing that makes me concerned, Professor, is I get the sense perhaps you're using the issue of race perhaps to make money. Line your pockets.
Race makes money. I mean, undeniably, you're probably correct on that, but it's undeniable. Race makes money. It's what sells. It's what draws in people to the O.J. trial, to the Kobe Bryant trial. It drives professional sports, professional entertainment. Why draw the line at adult entertainment?
Well, don't you think, though, that sort of as a college professor, you'd be a better role model if you were doing something like a legitimate, film? Wouldn't that make sense?
Erotic adult entertainment, as I stated, is legitimate. It's you're a free market person. You believe in the power of capitalism? Well, millions of Americans, actually people globally, adore this type of product. I'm simply trying to work in a genre that's a proven winner.
Professor, thanks for coming on. I think you could go up the food chain and have more success, but I appreciate you being with us. Folks, that's all the time we have for tonight. Join us again next Saturday at 8. My wife, the mother of twins, is running a half marathon tomorrow. That's right, over 13 miles. Good luck, sweetheart. I love you, and we're all rooting for you. We'll see you again next weekend. Rita Cosby's up next with a big story edition.